Welcome along to today's council meeting. If I could ask you to stand for karakia and council affirmation. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā tara ki tai, he akia nā te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hohu, tihei, mauri ora. Let us affirm today that we as councillors will work together to serve the citizens of Selwyn District, to always use our gifts of understanding, courage, common sense, wisdom and integrity in our discussions, dealings and decisions so that we may solve problems effectively. May we always recognise each other's values and opinions, be fair-minded and ready to listen to each other's point of view. In our dealings with each other, let us always be open to the truth of others and ready to seek agreement, slow to take offence and always prepared to forgive. May we always work to enhance the well-being of Selwyn District and its communities. And we will. I just want to, at the start of the meeting, acknowledge the passing of Anne Herford. Anne was the first mayor of Selwyn from 1989 through to 1992. She passed away a couple of weeks ago, and I've put her picture in here with us. So the first and only female mayor of Selwyn, first of many to come, I'm sure, but really want to acknowledge the work that Anne did in a time that was disruptive and full of change, which was the first post-amalgamation council, with the number of the councils beforehand coming together, meetings hosted in different towns across Selwyn. In 1989, a time when this town that we're in now of nearly 30,000 people, numbered in the hundreds rather than in the thousands. So just ask that we would stand again and have a minute silent for Anne. Thank you. I want to also say now tonight to Megan Mackay. Megan, thank you for joining us here at Council. The position is an appointed position by Taumutu to all Council committees, which includes full participation and voting rights at Council committees and participation and speaking rights at the Council meeting. Really great to have you on board with us and a continuation of the partnership with Ngāi Te Rua Heke Heke ki Taumutu and the work that has obviously up till now been quite project based and now moving into the space around continued governance involvement. So welcome to Selwyn District Council. Thank you for putting your name forward and being available for Ngāi Te Rua Heke Heke to appoint you. Just offer you the opportunity to say anything you'd like at the beginning of this process.
Well, kia ora koutou. So, who am I? Ko nukumania te maunga, ko ora o raraki te awa, ko te waihora te hapua, ko Ngāi Te Rua Heke Heke te hapu, ko Megan Mackay tōku ingoa. No taumi tua hau. So, I've put a small amount of thought into what I did want to say, and I wanted to start by acknowledging the work that has been done over several years between Selwyn District Council and our Taumito executive team to get to this point, to create this role. And in particular, I'd like to thank the Taumito, members of the Taumito, well, they're not executive, they're my hapu. The people who I care and trust about, trust to give me guidance to put my name forward. I am committed to doing a really good job, not just for my hapu, but for everybody who lives in the Selwyn district. And I'm really keen to bring a variety of skills and some really specific knowledge to the decision making around this table. I've been really fortunate. When you are part of a mana whenua community, a lot of people don't have the opportunity to live and breathe and be part of their marae and their hapu, but I've been really fortunate to have had that, and also been really fortunate to have had some real consistent leadership at Taumito. So we're in a really pretty good space. I would like to say I volunteered for the role, but I had good guidance, and I want to specifically, I know Poor Media won't like me to do this, but I do need to acknowledge Poor Media and the hard work that she's been doing for several years with Selwyn District Council. So somebody I really appreciate. And getting to know me, there's two things that I thought I should share. Throughout the course of this, you're going to get to know me and my connection with Taumito quite well. Who I am personally, I live in the district. I'm somebody who is a resident, and I am married, and I've got 2 children. They are adults now, so I've got a little bit more availability to come and do this. In terms of the skills that I can bring to the job, Sam's already acknowledged this morning that some of my pathway has been being a lawyer, and also I've worked in the strategy and influence team at Turunanga Ngaitahu, so have a pretty good grasp of strategic and political engagement that I think will be helpful for the role, and for the last few years been working more specifically and directly for Taumu Turunanga as your kaihotu for a good period. And I'm also an independent hearings commissioner, so know the planning process pretty well. So I think I'm bringing a whole heap of skills to the job. However, the lens that I'm going to bring is really why I'm here. I can bring a lens of a community that should have a voice in all levels of council. So, thank you.
Kia ora, Megan. I'll ask you to stand and sing our council waiata. Ko wai makareri ki te raki e, ko ora kaya ki te toku e, te wai hora e hora ake nei, ina te ora ka o ka iwi e, ma wai ra e turima e, mahu, mahaku, matato e. Kia ora, Megan, and welcome. There's no apologies for this meeting. I think we're all present today. Apology actually from Elizabeth is leaving early this afternoon. If we're not finished, Elizabeth may leave partway through the meeting. I've had no identification of any extraordinary business for today's agenda. Everything is just as it's been laid out. Although we have a second public forum today, and Bella will be first. I just want to raise as many conflicts of interest that people have that haven't already been identified on the register. There've been none. Really want to welcome Bella. Thank you for coming in and wanting to share part of your journey with us today. I know you've got some pictures and things that we're going to see. the microphone that's in front of you, you just press the right hand button, that'll turn it on, and we allow about 10 minutes for this conversation, and then there may be some questions and answers at the end of that. So yeah, kia ora Bella, and thank you.
Hi, I thought I'd introduce Bella. My name is Kun Lamas. I'm Bella's dad, and it's my pleasure to introduce Bella just before she rips into her presentation. Yeah, I think Bella's one of the best ambassadors for Selwyn, pretty well known around the district, involved in just about everything, went to school here, lives independently and flats independently in Bella close to the pool. She's at the pool 5 times a week, so a lot of you will have seen her there train. Part of the local karate club as well, as a green belt in karate, and has just finished her shift at Inkwise across the road in iZone, where she has paid employment. So she's well and truly knee deep in the Selwyn community. And we've just come back Bella competed in the Special Olympics World Games in June in Berlin, thanks to a big part to some funding from the Selwyn Council. So thanks on behalf of Bella for that. And she was there among 7,000 athletes from 200 countries, 42 from New Zealand. 4 swimmers were selected from New Zealand, and Bella was one of the 4. And so she can tell you all about it now.
Hi, my name is Bella Lammers. Thank you for you supporting me to the Special Olympics World Swimming Games in Berlin. Before I went to Berlin, I trained for many months 5 times every week. We also had lots of training camps with the New Zealand team. The team got together in Auckland. We all got our uniforms. We then flew together to Germany, first to Munich. We were hosted by 3 small towns close to Munich. It was amazing. We did lots of training, but they had lots of parties for us. And we did for haka for them. The opening ceremony was in the big stadium in Berlin, and it was amazing. There were 200 countries, and I loved the fireworks.
That's Bella front. She's the shortest in the team.
I competed in backstroke, freestyle, and relay team. We had to race every day, so it was very busy. I had lots of support from family from New Zealand and Holland as well, which was great.
It's Bella, the second from the top. And it's in the semi-final of the backstroke. And there's the rest of the competitions at the bottom now out of the screen, but it's going pretty fast.
We won a bronze medal in the relay, which was amazing. I also came fourth in the freestyle because I was going so fast in the backstroke, but it put me in the fastest division and I finished fifth. After the races, there was a big closing party in the middle of Berlin. It was so much fun with 7,000 athletes from all over the world. I made lots of friends in the New Zealand team and also other teams. I wanted to go to Berlin to be famous and get on TV. And I did that. I am really proud of what I achieved. So thank you for all your support to make my dreams come true.
Yeah, Bella, well done on your achievement. But specifically, awesome effort on all the training and hard work that goes into being able to do something like that. The ability to travel internationally and represent your country. We're very proud of you representing Selwyn. But there's a huge cost for you in doing that, and the time training and your family support. And so really want to acknowledge that and say thank you for what you put into to making this happen. There may be some comments or questions that councillors have. If anyone else would like to say anything, Elizabeth.
Bella, well done. What a star. You must be so excited. Have you got some more goals coming up?
I'm not too sure.
Then it's a bit tricky with the national games every 4 years, so it's quite hard to keep motivated. Because of COVID, they got pushed back, so they were basically back to back. But the next national summer games are going to be in Christchurch, so I've been pushing quite hard to get a few events here and so on as well. Especially if they keep mucking around with the pool there, we might have a chance. So that's Bella's next bit, but she just had a massive tournament here this weekend. So there's lots of regular swimming events here at Selwyn, so you might bump into that.
Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you, Bella, for coming in and sharing that story with us. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation around libraries and Selwyn library books. And so welcome Miriam and Stephanie. Oh, great. Oh, great. You feel free to take a seat in those two chairs. The microphones in front of you work by pressing just the right-hand button and press it once to turn it on and press it again to turn it off. Yeah, we're allowed about 10 minutes for this conversation. There may be some questions that people have afterwards. So welcome and thank you.
See you later.
So much.
Oh, is that right? Oh, yeah, I can hear myself. Thank you. My name's Miriam. Thank you for having me along to this public forum today. I am wanting to talk about library books. I'm wanting to talk about a particular library book. It's a book that is available in our Selwyn libraries that I'm appalled that it's in there. It's a book that's called Welcome to Sex. Okay, it's by Dr. Melissa Kang and by Ayumi Steins, and it's available in our library. I've really got it out. It is a book that has very graphic pictures. It's available for children aged 10 and 11 years old and up, but the authors have stated that it's suitable for mature 8-year-olds. Okay, this book is disgusting. I would respectfully recommend you all to take an in-depth look at this book, and I'm sure you will understand that it's just not appropriate. I'll be very surprised if you find it suitable for your own children or even your grandchildren. It's definitely not appropriate for my 12-year-old. Okay, my 12-year-old goes to bed at night with her teddy bears. She has names for her teddy bears. She loves her teddy bears. Okay, she does not need to know how to pleasure herself, how to pleasure someone else, anything like that. She does not need to know it. No child of that age needs to know it. But this book, any child can go into the library and get it and look at it. I'm unsure what section of the library it's in. I ordered it from the catalogue online, so I assume it's in the teen section, but there's no stopping any child in that library going to the teen section and getting this book and looking at it and flicking through it. Children are losing their innocence at such a young age now. They don't need to know how to have sex at that age, what positions there are, or even ways to pleasure each other without the use of penetration. It's just not appropriate. The majority of the X-rated rubbish in this book, I didn't need to know in my teens. As a 51-year-old, a lot of the stuff in this book I'd never heard of, but I never missed out. Okay, let's keep our children as children and stop this pressure to sexualise them from such a young age. I look forward to your response, and I'm confident that if you put the welfare of the children before any other consideration, this book and others like it should be removed immediately. Okay, I've got some printouts here that I would like to pass out. Am I allowed to walk? Okay, thank you. There's not enough for everyone, sorry. Thanks, Brad. Just give you a bit of an idea of what's in the book, or if anyone wants to look at the book. Yep. Oh, it's shaking. Oh. Oh.
Great, Miriam. Thank you very much for coming and presenting that to us. Are there any questions that councillors have of the presentation? No. We're not going to make a decision right now we will consider the information that you've brought to us and in conjunction with Sharon, our staff understand what steps may or may not be taken. So we really appreciate your time in raising this concern with us and for the extra information you've given to us as well. We will come back to you with whatever the outcome is of that discussion.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me the time to talk here. Thank you. Our next agenda item is the confirmation of minutes from Wednesday, the 16th of August. Can I have a mover and seconder that we receive those as true and accurate? Bob and Phil, thank you. Is there any discussion on those minutes? All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare them carried. And then we have the confirmation of the extraordinary meeting on the 6th of September. Have a mover and seconder that those minutes be recorded as true and accurate. Phil, thank you. And one other person, Lydia. Thank you. Any discussion on those minutes? All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. We now move on to my report, and there are a couple of other things that aren't written in the report that we need to raise with you today. One is around audit fees, and Kelvin and Sharon will talk to that. And the other is the sharing of the priorities that we have for any incoming government. That work has been done to try and identify
the level of projects that sit above what just Selwyn ratepayers can and should fund for facilities and work that is the government's responsibility, and in many cases might be multiple agencies required to deliver those works. They have been shared with the candidates who are currently standing for Selwyn at the moment, and we will be sharing them publicly after this meeting. The audit fees, Sharon, do you want to speak to that?
I'm having a little computer glitch at the moment, so Calvin, you may want to jump in. We thought it was really important to bring this. Thank you, I forgot the microphone. We thought it was really important to bring the audit fees proposal from Audit New Zealand to council. The time frame, hence it coming as a late paper, was just recognition that we need to be able to progress and move forward. As you can see, there is a significant increase in the cost. Now, the proposal that we have tabled, that is a reduced cost. The initial fees that Kelvin and I received were considerably higher. And we wrote to Julian and Audit New Zealand with regards to the fees that were being proposed, outlined that they weren't acceptable, and asked for a reduced fee. So that is what we're bringing to the table today. I think it would be fair to say that the fees that have come forward are not unique to Selwyn. There is an increase around the country. Some councils are significantly higher than Selwyn. We're probably at the lower end of the increase. As a group of Canterbury councils, the CEs have written to Audit New Zealand raising concerns about the significant increase of costs. And I think in the longer term, we may seek to explore some opportunities about an alternative provider, I think, going into the future. So, Kelvin, is there anything more that you would like to add?
Well, I'll just add a couple of pieces of context around it. Last Friday, the CEOs and or CFOs of all of the councils across New Zealand met with the Office of the Auditor General to discuss audit fees, because, as Sharon's just said, there's equal concern around the country. It was a really productive meeting, and they certainly listened to the concerns, raised a few points around how we should be moving forward with negotiations around fees, and it's less so negotiation of dollars, but more so negotiation of the hours that they consume and how we can do that better. And the second complicating point to this was that the OAG had held the fees flat for a period of time, and then COVID struck us, held again, and so they've been absorbing quite an additional amount of work as time goes on, and audits are becoming more and more complex as more and more things get captured within them, like water quality, climate change activities, and other aspects like that. So I don't suspect it will become cheaper. If you look to the wider community, they're not out of the ballpark when you look at what a corporate would pay.
Thank you for that. Elizabeth?
Yeah, thanks, Kelvin. Will the RM reforms and the 3 waters potentially bring the auditing costs down, because we'll have less in-house to audit in the next couple of years, in a couple of years' time onwards, potentially? And you're talking about looking at alternatives, Sharon, tenders, I guess, basically to see whether we can look elsewhere to have the auditing done. Is that not an option at the moment?
Thank you. In terms of any reform changes will not necessarily alter, I think, the costs associated with audit, as Kelvin has quite rightly said. Audit New Zealand have held those costs for quite a considerable length of time, so they are on a bit of catch up. So I don't think it'll make any material difference. In terms of going out to a new provider now, we don't have that time on our side, but I think going into the future, we should explore what other options, what are the costs associated.
but more importantly, trying to do that in a collaborated way, because we want to make sure that all councils just don't go to one provider that also provides a monopoly. So we have to work through some of the different scenarios that would be available to us.
We're audited by the Office of the Auditor General, and they, I suppose, subcontract out the audit, and so all larger firms in New Zealand provide that service. And what it is then a discussion with the OAG to see if we could use a different provider. But Sharon's certainly right. We need to spread the audits out. Otherwise you have an inability to resource, in which we've seen Audit New Zealand have struggled with resource for a number of reasons.
Isn't there a capability here for us to redefine the audit processes ourselves a little bit too? Our reason for audit is around our financial responsibility. But if we take responsibility for part of that internally, the lower risk items, say there is no need to audit us further on that, or what can we do to front foot the preparation for the auditor? These are things that can, those numbers are absolutely outrageous. I mean, that's, we're talking about several full-time staff employed 100% of the time as an audit fee. I'm absolutely blown. There must be something that we can do to address those. And I know, look, I'm speaking, not finance is not my strength, Calvin, but I'm sure you're also on the problem side.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the theory on being able to take a risk-based process and say that these items are lower risk, therefore there should be less attention on them, and we'll undertake a level of assurance ourselves is not possible through the auditing standards. They're well prescribed in what the auditors need to do. And what we can do as an organisation is ensure that we're significantly prepared for these, that we understand the risks around the materiality of the numbers and what are important, and therefore ensure that the likes of valuations are expertly done, they're well managed, they're well reconciled and well understood to enable the auditors to move forward and deliver them. The one challenge that I did raise with the Office of the Auditor General is we will be having our third audit manager in 3 years, which creates a continuity issue, and therefore there is an amount of time that we spend effectively upskilling or giving knowledge around this particular organisation. While they may have experience in local government, it's the individual entities which have their different piece to play. So that has been a concern we've expressed around the quality, and that's really just a factor of the challenges through COVID around immigration and getting auditors in the country.
Yeah, I guess I'd just like a bit of clarity. I was of the understanding that we were legally required or legislatively required to use Audit New Zealand, and it wasn't optional for us to go and engage a third party. I suppose the second question is have you got an indicative price from a third party? My experience of audit is that even in the private sector, it's gone up significantly, and for an organisation of our size, we might not get a discount from what we think Audit New Zealand's charging us. Regardless, I'm with you. I think we're just about employing 2 full-time staff for Audit New Zealand. And I think they really need to have a good look at themselves.
The point, Grant, around being legislated, we're legislated to for the auditor, the Office of the Auditor General, to audit us. And if you read the audit opinions will come back, it'll be in our case Julian Tan of Audit New Zealand on behalf of the Office of the Auditor General. So it's the Office of the Auditor General. It's a negotiation we'd have with them around potentially going out. It wouldn't be us going out to tender. It would have to be a partnership.
Because there's no capacity in the private sector. They're having the same issues that Audit New Zealand's having.
Everyone's got the same issue. Yeah. It's no longer sexy to be an auditor.
Yeah, thank you, Kelvin. And Grant, you're absolutely right. It may not necessarily be any cheaper. But until we have that conversation with the Auditor General, it has happened across some other councils where the Auditor General has worked with other councils to appoint one of the big 4. And sometimes in the private sector, they generally tend to be slightly better resourced because it's more appealing to go into the private sector than it is into Audit New Zealand. So
Sharon. Deborah?
Thank you. Can I just clarify, do we need to be audited as regularly as we are audited? Is there sometimes an opportunity to expand the timeframe for us?
No, the auditing standards and financial reporting standards and Public Sector Act, Financial Act, I think it is, required annual to occur.
Shane?
Tēnā koe, te koramatua Sam, tumu whakahaere Sharon, te whare atu nei, tēnā koe, Megan, tēnā koe, tēnā te rui hiki hiki, ki taumutu whānau, tēnā koe te pau ahurei, tēnā koe. Ko ana te nākau, kua taumai koutou, te whakanui te kaupapa o te rā, Bella, Megan, whānau. Te mana rangatira o te reo o te wiki Māori, te nā koe, e ngā wero o whakamamahara o wero o Ruron, piki ake e ngā kaunihera, and I'm really grateful for Megan, your seat at the table, and I've totally supported Sam and publicly supported Sam in having a mana whenua a part of this council, and the reo a part of the council. Te ara atea, te pauhekanga, absolutely incredible and amazing to be a part of a council that is so forward-looking, forward-thinking. Te tuatahi, Kelvin, the audit fees, I am comfortable that we are sitting within the legislation, although the exorbitant cost is something that has been discussed in the past. Are you confident, and you've provided the rigour here to ensure that there's been a cost reduction, which I commend staff for. In further exploration, perhaps there can be some adjustments for independence throughout this process. But my question to you is, we fit within legislation, in your expert opinion, this is the best we can do so far, and you've provided enough rigour?
Yeah, it is, Shane. Yeah. We won't get any more. This is sort of in line with expectations, and other councils around New Zealand are also doing the same thing through this negotiation. They're getting very similar discounts.
Yeah. And I was going to say that is us having pushed back, and what we've got now is them having sharpened their pencil. So we do think that's as good as we're going to get.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Grant.
The question for Kelvin and Sharon, I suppose, around, it says if we can't agree with the audit fee set, that it goes to the Auditor General to make a determination. Is it a sort of a Pyrrhic note to them to say that we don't accept it? I mean, are we better to accept the discount we've been offered, even though it's a substantial increase? Or does it bring it further to their attention by us refusing to accept it, that we are really concerned about the level of fee?
I think from an Office of the Auditor General point of view, they're well and truly aware of the situation. I raised some issues specifically in relation to this council and the process that went through, which are going to be taken up with Audit New Zealand. So I'm certainly voiced our views on that.
Sharon?
And collectively, certainly Canterbury as writing and the Cs have written to the Auditor General, so that there's certainly conversations taking place regionally, and I would expect nationally as well. So it is being well and truly highlighted.
Yeah, the Chief Executive of LGNZ is having these same conversations with audit, because it's across the board for all councils.
The Canterbury Corporate Forum is meeting next week, I believe, which I'll be in that meeting, and Mark Maloney of the Office of the Auditor General will be there taking questions from Canterbury councils.
I think just for the record, we should let it be known that the delays that we experienced in the last audit won't be acceptable this time. With the fees going up as much as they are, their demands are that we get the audit when the audit's due.
There's been extensive discussion around that, and we've been assured, as much as they can assure us, that they will meet the deadline. Office of the Auditor General also they're putting in places with the audit providers to ensure that that occurs. They can't guarantee it. There is a piece of responsibility sitting on our side of the equation to make sure that that can happen also.
Thank you. One of the other things that we need to tidy up is the appointment to the Canterbury climate change work. Originally, when we put 2 people forward to be on the Canterbury committee, there was space for 2 people, and there had been work by 2 people in the past. The committee's come back to us and said, can someone please only appoint 1 person? We've had Sophie and Elizabeth as the 2 appointees to date. Met last week and had a discussion about how we go forward from here. Does someone want to step back? Do we want me to flip a coin? Do we want to take a vote around council? Do you want to share the role? They've gone with wanting to share the role, with Sophie taking on the next 12 months and Elizabeth picking it up for the final 12 months of the triennium. Is there any discussion on that? And Phil?
Yeah, my concern is the continuity. How would that mean that one person would be able to set the position? Is it really feasible to have that a second person coming in to take over where one person's already started?
I think that is part of the challenge of change. Transition happens between triennium anyway, when people may or may not be re-elected back onto committees where they've been. So that would certainly be something that both Sophie and Elizabeth would need to transition between the timings. I don't know if you guys have a view on how that would work.
So we'll both be actively participating regardless of whether we're on it, but we just won't have the same say. So we'll still be receiving the information and you'll be still attending the meeting as it's, I presume?
Yeah, so the first 12 months, when they send out the agendas and everything, I can share those with Elizabeth. We can do a big handover at the end as well and discuss as we go through. Only one of us is allowed to actively participate at a time. And then the rest of it is information sharing and then managing a handover in 12 months' time.
Thank you. Deborah.
Sam, through you, when you have an appointment to a committee structure, it's important that you take with you the council's view.
Yes.
So how we get the feedback with regards to the council's view being taken to these by both these candidates. So what's the process?
So I think that was raised probably a month ago when we talked about the committees themselves and our appointments to external committees and wanting to have a space for feedback. That used to happen at council meetings, which ended up being, I think, just a bit of a space where people wanted to talk on about the things and how busy they'd been. So I think we need to think about actually what's the value in feeding back and what's the information that has been shared at meetings and create maybe a separate space for that. But I would wrap that up into the conversation we have about what's the future structure of how we want to run our committees as well and where is the right place to feed that back. Because in some cases it's the committee's chair that is appointed on these external committees and at other times it's not. So sometimes it will already be caught up in the committee chair's report. But there's still some gaps. So we would need to think in this instance how Sophie for the next 12 months is going to feed it back. I don't have the answer for you here, but I want to make sure, as it's been raised, that we enable that for all councillors who are on these external committees. Nicole?
And does that mean the agenda is being shared with us all as well for this committee?
If councillors want to understand what the Canterbury work is doing in the climate change space, then that can be shared. I'm not expecting that every external committee that you're appointed to, those agendas all be shared with everyone. I think that fills up people's inboxes unnecessarily. But if you have a particular interest in something that's happening, then let's highlight that and we can share them. Yeah.
Considering I'm the chair of the Planning and Climate Change Committee, I would think that I would have an interest in knowing what was going on with that committee. I personally think it would be a lot easier if we just had one person for the rest of the term. It's only 2 years, and I'm sorry, Sam, but when there is a change of people between trienniums, there is a whole process that goes through because you can have a whole change of the committees. In this particular case, I can be corrected that we are the only ones who are looking to propose to have a change of members during the term. My understanding would be that the people that are on it representing the other councils are just having the one person who is going through that whole term.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. Sophie?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, like most committees, if there's something that needs to have a substantive decision made or endorsement by councils, it does come to council. So that's already happened with this working group, and it's worth noting that it's more of a reference group than a decision making committee. There's work that comes into this from the Chief Executives Forum, the Canterbury Mayoral Forum. ECAN's climate action, like it's part of an ecosystem rather than something that actively commits us to any course of action. It's about how we coordinate action around or strategies around the region. So in terms of where Selwyn decides to put its funding and how we work for climate change or to mitigate and adapt, we still make that decision here. That reference group does not.
So my report then today is that you received my report, that we approve the Mayor to sign the audit fees, and that Council appoints Sophie McInnes to the Canterbury Climate Change Committee until October 2024, and Elizabeth for the 12 months from October 24 to the end of the term, October 25. Seconder, Shane?
So move.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Declare it carried.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't against. I was just putting my hand up, because I just had an amendment to make to your events attended.
You did too.
Yes, I did. And I just wanted to point out, Saturday the 19th of August, I attended the Southbridge Volunteer Fire Brigade Gold Star service for Rob Roxburgh at the Lakeside Memorial Soldiers Hall. And what a wonderful venue and wonderful caterers there. So totally recommend it, and commend the Volunteer Fire Brigade out there and Rob Roxburgh. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. The next item on the agenda, I just want to bring us back to the public forum and just suggest a way forward. I had wanted to do this before our public forum speakers left the room, but they just left halfway through that matter. So I recommend that we ask staff to review the public forum request about library books and include a response in the next council agenda, which would form part of Sharon's report back to us, and then we would understand the consideration that's taken place. Does that sound like is that way forward okay for people? Grant?
Yeah, I mean, it's a catch-all, but I think what we'd like to know is how the library staff manage these sensitive type books, how they treat the lending of them and the issue of them, and where they are in the library. Those kind of information is what we'll be seeking.
Yeah. You'll get that, Sharon?
Yes, absolutely. We'll bring that into the feedback.
Tēnā koe, kia ora. I guess additionally, we're a multicultural society. So how are we taking into consideration different cultures as well, perhaps in that report? What is good for one culture is different for another culture, and perhaps not as offensive.
Thank you. Just to respond to both of you, I'd also like the opportunity to actually go through the book as well, because and actually understand it, because I haven't read it either. So in terms of it would be useful to understand the contents within the book and look at it. And the response that we will give will also be in terms of looking at how the broader community may respond to the book, because people's perceptions can be quite different.
Thank you, Sharon. We now move on to the Acting Chief Executive's report, signed under Tim's name. And Tim, if you've got anything you'd like to highlight there, and Sharon also speak to this report.
Thank you, Mayor Sam. Firstly, I would like to extend my thanks and acknowledgement to Tim for stepping into the role. An absolutely sterling job through some really challenging times, and I'm sure it won't put him off from stepping up again. So thank you, Tim. I really appreciate you stepping in. I'm going to let you talk to the natural building environment. and then I'll talk to the economic development.
Thank you for those kind words, Sharon. The first part of the report, I thought it's timely to give some information on the resource management framework reform. The two new pieces of legislation were enacted towards the end of August, and that is the Spatial Planning Act and the Built Environment Act. And I've just set out a bit of information there in terms of how that's going to transition. A few key points. I think the next big step is the development of the National Planning Framework. And just today we've got some information about some engagement starting to occur through that. And we will take that opportunity to engage with that process. I guess the other big takeaway is that the period of transition, you'll see the various timelines there, they stretch well into the future. So I think at the very closest, we're looking at probably 7 years. There is a first tranche of councils that will be developing their plans. I'm personally quite pleased to say we are not in that first tranche. So that gives us plenty of time to engage with the National Planning Framework and to see how those other councils go. Those two pieces of legislation are law, but most of them are not actually impacting upon us. There are some small number of provisions that I've sort of identified in the paper that actually are in force and active at the moment. But that's about all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And in terms of the item 3 in the report, economic development. So, it's really important in terms of the future and the growth within Selwyn is to have an economic development strategy. So what we have done is connected into wanting to engage businesses. Now, this will take a multi-tiered approach, and we will present this a councillors briefing session and take councillors through the intent. But it is to bring together a plan as to how to take Selwyn to the next level in terms of new business, alternative business, being able to diversify, and all other options associated with that. So we're having a starting point of having invited some of the larger businesses. We will look at some of the smaller local businesses as well as a latter stage, and seeing what opportunities there are and what it would take to bring, potentially larger businesses to the Selwyn area. We've been very fortunate, and well done to the team in terms of we're hoping to have Brad Olson from Infometrics MC the session for us, and obviously we will be inviting councillors along as well. It's really important. And again, as I said, we will be presenting to you, or Denise's team will be giving you a presentation as to our intent and getting feedback. What we want to do is align this to the long-term plan, and along with other strategic issues such as strategic investment plans, etc. So we're really trying to align this to the LTP and the other strategies well, so that it makes sense and it can go out into the LTP document too. But I think this is a really exciting time for us to be able to embark on.
Thank you, Sam. Kia ora, Tim. The new act, in relation to the new act on page 43, the new act requires genuine partnership with Te Tiriti partners who are confident as a council that we are engaging well. And just secondly, you've already, second question, Sharon, is glad to hear that the economic corridor that you've got here will feed into our potentially the investment strategy moving forward. And that was my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Yes, well, I think today with Megan's arrival at the table, we are taking steps in the right direction. So big welcome to Megan, and still work to be done, but I'm confident that we are moving in the right direction in terms of fulfilling those obligations to our Te Tiriti partners.
Kia ora, Tim.
We move and seconder that we receive this report. Phil and Sophie, thank you. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. And lastly, for the public part of this meeting, we shout outs to Maria Clayton, sat patiently at the back. I had meant to do this at the beginning of the meeting. Sorry, Marty, I say you've been caught up for an hour extra. But really want to say welcome and thank you for joining Permitia and the team who have been contributing so much to what we're able to deliver for our community here through richer conversations, a broader outlook on what caring for this place looks like, a deeper understanding of our history and the heritage that has gone before us, and providing new stories to many people as we learn more as a council and as an organisation, and as we continue to share that with the community. So I've got a little bit of chocolate just to say welcome to the team, and thank you for being here.
Tēnā tātou i te puro matua, koutou ngā mema o te kaunihira o Waikirikiri, e aku rau rangatirama, tēnā tātou katoa. Te harikoa te ngākau kua tau mai nei tēnei wā, hei whakatau tēnei mea, tēnei pau, te pau mata aho, kua pua wai ngā moemoea o te hapu o te iwi. Nā reira tēnā tātou katoa. Very pleased to say that team no longer includes I. Very pleased to introduce to you Kaitohu Matua, our Senior Advisor for Te Pau Mataho. Te Pau Mataho is a quick intro, of course, is our iwi capability, relationships and capability team. Te Pau Mataho is a symbol, is the post at the front of a meeting house. So it is the post that looks out across the maho, across the atia, and looks out into the world, and has the ability to look back into the whare and provide guidance within the whare. That is the symbolism that sits behind Te Pau Mataho, and now we have more than one set of eyes in Te Pau Mataho looking outwards. Today we have apologies from our kaitohu, our advisor, Atarau Hamilton Fuller, who also started last week with Maria, who hails from Taranaki with whakapapa to Ngāti Kahungunu and Waikato Tainui to Ngāti Raukawa, and brings with him, which I'm hoping you'll meet him at some point, a expertise with his youth work was as a treaty facilitator, and his work with iwi leaders forums spaces, so brings, and as a te reo advocate, who is going to be helping us significantly within Te Pau Mataho, but more importantly us here at Council. So tēnā koutou katoa, I am so excited to have team. So I'll give Maria the opportunity to introduce herself. Ngā mihi.
Nei rā te mihi kia koutou katoa, ko tai mai nei I tēnei wā o te kaunihira o te Waikirikiri. Mihi atu kia koutou katoa o te kai whakahaere. Mihi atu kia a koe, me te tūmau ake, mihi atu me te whanauka, e tai mai nei, mihi atu kia a koe, Megan. O te hono mai te rua hiki me te tai o Marakura, ko tai mai nei o te kuri. Tēnā koe. Mihi atu ki a koe, te rangatira, ko tai mai nei, e mihi tō whakaro o te kaupapa o te ao Māori. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Tōku whanauka, mihi atu ki a koe, o te tai mai nei o te hāpuri o te Paumataho, o te tū hono mai o te ao Māori, ka tū mai nei I tēnei rohi e te whānau, mihi atu ki a koe. All I said was hi. And to say, and to mihi to my whānau Megan, to e rangatira Shane, and to my whānau here as well, and to you all. To me, it's a pure, I'm humbled to have started, and it's a true privilege to be in this space. I look forward to what this looks like as we go forward within te rohe o Waikirikiri. And for our whanauka too, so that our whānau, hapu, iwi, Māori katoa are all working alongside with each other to hono mai, so that's working together. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, and thank you for lifting and encouraging the use of reo in the space, particularly this week, but looking forward to that being a journey that we can all continue to grow on. So thank you. Councillors, a mover and seconder that we move to public excluded. Mover Bob, seconded Malcolm. All those in favour say aye. No against. There it carried. And we'll take a 10-minute break and we'll start again at 2:10.